What's up? What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? It is your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha. Represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris. So I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. What's up, everybody? How y'all been? I haven't been uploading because I've been under the weather. You should be able to tell by my voice. I sound a little heavier than normal. That just kind of recovering from a cold. Me and my husband both tested positive for COVID. So y'all know this COVID thing is on and it's popping, it's real. Please make sure y'all take care of yourselves, take care of your families. Make sure you wear your mask. Don't get comfortable going in these public places. You're not using sanitizer. You're touching things. So just be cautious. You can only be but so careful, but please make sure you're taking care of yourselves and taking care of your family. So I thought it was imperative that I talked about this because y'all know I am a former correctional officer in the business, in the career of corrections. So I'm very familiar with a lot of these things that tend to occur within the law enforcement world, within the criminal justice system. And we do know that one thing corrections does come with, and that means corruption. Corrections has always been known to come with corruption on all levels. So if y'all have not heard, there is a sheriff in Columbia, South Carolina by the name of Alex Underwood. Former South Carolina sheriff, likely headed to federal prison for years. Underwood is one of 13 sheriffs in South Carolina's 46 counties convicted of crime since 2010. A former sheriff in South Carolina convicted of abusing his power and stealing money from government programs will likely spend about 45 years in federal prison. The sentencing date for ex-Chester County Sheriff Alex Underwood has not been set. The FBI says Underwood created a false police report to jail a man for 3 days for no reason, skimmed overtime pay meant for his deputies, and used taxpayers' money to fly first class to a Las Vegas conference with his wife. Underwood is one of 13 sheriffs in South Carolina's 46 counties convicted of crime since 2010. 5 of the 12 sentenced before Underwood have received prison time. So, of course, y'all know it's definitely not a good look for Sheriff Mr. former Sheriff Mr. Alex Underwood, who has been caught in an ugly scandal, not doing what he's supposed to do with the taxpayers' money. Just to give you some more information on this too, his wife is also a judge. Yes, former Sheriff Alex Underwood, his wife of the South Carolina Supreme Court. Her name is Mrs. Angel Underwood. She has been reprimanded by the South Carolina Supreme Court because she is the wife of the sheriff. The justices said in her ruling last Wednesday that Angel Underwood must tell every defendant that her husband is Chester County Sheriff Alex Underwood and give them time to talk to a lawyer before having her preside over their cases. Angel Underwood told the justices she understood that announcing her relationship before court starts is not enough. South Carolina court administration started investigating the matter when it found Underwood's judge code was used in more than 100 sheriff office cases after her husband became sheriff in 2013. The ruling also points out that there have been no complaints about Angel Underwood's decisions on bond amounts or other rulings in those cases. So far she has gotten spared. It's not too many people who have been complaining or saying, or pretty much saying that she's been doing anything foul or illegitimate, even though she is married to the former sheriff who has been caught, using governmental funds inappropriately. So far, she's being spared. We don't know how long she's going to be spared, but so far, she's being spared. Give you some more information. I want to write in this. Prosecutors and attorneys for ex-Chester County Sheriff Alex Underwood argued earlier this month how long the proposed range of Underwood's sentence should be when a judge considers it later. Judge Michelle Child settled on potential prison time of 46 to 46 to 57 months, according to court document. Federal agents began investigating Underwood after he jailed a man for 3 days for no reason, after the man recorded the aftermath of a police chase and wreck that happened near his home. Underwood created a false police report when the FBI started to investigate that, said the man stepped out of his yard into the public roadway and cursed out police, according to indictments. FBI agents would later discover Underwood skimmed overtime meant for his deputies. He was taking money from his own officers, takes taxpayer money to fly first class to Las Vegas conference with his wife, and then tried to cover up that she went and had on-duty deputies work to build a party barn at his home, even pulling officers away from drug stakeouts, prosecutors said. Underwood and two of his former deputies were convicted 9 months ago, but court documents said their sentencing has been delayed by appeals, a ransomware attack on the law office of Underwood's attorneys, and COVID-19 issues. Ex-Deputy John Neal Jr. faces about 4 years in prison, while former Deputy Robert Sprouse faces 3 years behind bars, court documents said. The date for the sentencing has not been set. Underwood is one of 13 in South Carolina's 46 counties convicted of crime since 2010. So, as y'all can see, this is something that tends to happen a lot. Most of the time, these type of scams, especially in the law enforcement agencies, are pretty much swept up under the rug. But in this case, it definitely was not swept up under the rug. And keep in mind that Alice Underwood is a black man. So, of course, we have never been able to get away with near as much. Compared to other, races, and that's as appropriate as I can say it. And as this is not a racist statement, it's just the God's honest truth. That whenever we do something in law enforcement, or we violate, or we are caught breaching the oath of a law enforcement officer, we're definitely going to make the front page news. So we don't have the complexion for the connection. So basically, what's going on is you have Alice Underwood, who has been this sheriff of course, of County Chester Police Department. And basically, it's Chester Sheriff's Office. Yeah, Chester County Sheriff's Office. Okay. So basically, this man, he has been abusing his authority. And the worst thing a person with power can do is abuse their authority. Because you tend to get very comfortable. You think that you have crossed all your T's and you dot all your I's, and you figure that you'll never get caught. You become very cocky, you become very arrogant, and you figure that you're invincible, that no one can stop you, nothing is ever going to catch up to you. You can pretty much get away with whatever you do, and figure that it's just never going to come back to haunt you. So it's more information pertaining to this as well that I also wanted to reiterate on. For weeks at a time, they're regularly called away from their professional duties for work days at the personal property of Sheriff Alex B.A. Underwood. So basically, he was given a lot of these lieutenants instructions that when it came to them handling big cases or stakeouts, that he would basically shut the operation down when they were like in the middle of basically handling some very severe criminal offenses that were going on. So on the sheriff's 11-acre tract in Piney Chester, deputies of plainclothes cut firewood or hauled rocks from streams. They landscaped and graded the land around the pond. They devoted dozens of hours to renovating an old horse stable into a party barn decked out with wire lighting, a stage, sound system, and fully stocked bar. Those work days, unwittingly funded by taxpayers, were just one of the many ways Underwood leveraged his powerful position to benefit himself, a pattern of behavior that will ultimately catch the attention of federal investigators and play out in high-stakes criminal trial. The picture that emerged from testimony was that a Rouge lawman who bent the system to his will. During Underwood's 7-year reign as Chester County's top cop, he ordered deputies to spy on and ticket his political opponents. He and top deputies collected paychecks for work they didn't perform at a DUI checkpoint, skimming money from their own employees who did the work. And when Underwood siphoned public money to fund first-class travel for himself and his wife. An employee was ordered to white out and falsify details of the spending so the county treasurer wouldn't catch on. Underwood and his supporters defended his behavior, describing the sheriff as a good boss and dedicated public servant whose worst offenses were nothing more than minor policy infractions. Federal prosecutors saw it another way. His conduct, much of which was first exposed by the Post and Courier in the string of 2019 investigative stories, prompted federal indictments alleging public corruption, abuse of power, and obstruction. On April 23rd, a jury of 12 deliberated less than 10 hours before returning a resounding verdict. Underwood, along with two of his top deputies, were guilty of breaking the same laws that, as career law enforcement officers, they swore to uphold. Underwood and former deputies Johnny Neal and Robert Sprouse, who will all be sentenced this summer, were convicted on a combined 23 counts. The charges on which they were convicted carry sentences of 3 decades or more if stacked together. But prosecutors expect each man to face no more than 20 years behind bars. Underwood is just the latest example of South Carolina's disturbing trend of crooked sheriffs. Over the past 11 years, 14 sheriffs among the state's 46 counties were charged with crimes, more than 1 in 4. Underwood is the 13th to be convicted. His downfall comes amid the Post and Courier's Uncover Project. The newspaper is partnering with 16 local news outlets to expose how public officials across South Carolina abuse their power when they think no one is watching. Anyway, y'all, I'll leave the link to this because it's a lot that goes into it. You got South Carolina sheriffs have bullied employees and treated themselves to lavish perks on the public dime. They have ordered deputies to surveil and harass political opponents and stolen taxpayer dollars. They have been accused of sexual misconduct and lying to cover up their wrongdoing. And I notice most of the corruption usually occurs at the top. Let's just face it. A lot of times these news outlets, they have no problem exploiting when correctional officers or police officers are found doing things that are corrupt, but it's not always the bottom man. It's not always the chief. Indians. A lot of times you have the chiefs. You have the big chiefs, the ones who are already well off, who are already getting paid in high positions, who already, are pretty much sitting in a good position where they pretty much don't have to want for anything. They get all the money, they get all the power, but unfortunately, power comes with greed. And that is one of those most unfortunate things that comes with a person being in a high position and a power. Power and greed are a dangerous combination. You have a lot of these sheriffs who are getting paid thousands of dollars, in many cases almost millions, just to operate a correctional facility. The job as a sheriff is you have to oversee that the jail is getting provided for, that the officers are getting paid adequately to perform the duties that are important in order for them to be effective as officers. But what tends to happen is a lot of these gentlemen, and I would just say men, because I don't know too many female sheriffs as of this moment, and I won't be surprised if there are some, but we do know that a lot of times when some of these men get in position, with the position comes the power. What tends to happen is they forget where the hell they came from. They forgot that before they climbed that ladder, that they were regular officers, that they had to work inside the jails, that they had to work on the streets. They had to crawl before they walked. In some cases, some of them, depending on what type of connections they got, some of them probably never even had to work the jail. And to me, those are the ones that are the most dangerous. Those who get in high positions and never had to start from bottom positions, when you automatically you just walk without never having to crawl, you are more of a threat. You will put your officers in danger quicker than someone who has actually had to walk from the bottom, had to start from the bottom, because at least anybody who's in a high position in corrections as a sheriff, if they have been to the bottom and they can remember what it was like and not forget all of what they had to endure just being a street officer patrolling the streets, or being a jailer, having to actually walk the jail, having to actually, maintain order in the jail. If you deal with the sheriff who has had those experiences, and not, most importantly, not only has had those experiences, but has not forgotten those experiences, he's likely to have a little bit more compassion for his officers. But the problem is, most of these sheriffs, when they finally climb the ladder, you have to realize most sheriffs probably been in the law enforcement business for probably 15 to 20 something years plus. So most of them haven't been bottom officers in every bit of 20-25 years, not realizing how much has changed by the time they became sheriffs. Times are different now. You're dealing with a different level of criminals now. Criminals back in 1972 is nothing compared to criminals in 2022. You have a lot of these sheriffs, they get in their offices and they done got comfortable with their high positions. They have no idea what the hell is really going on in a jail, what is really going on with their officers, what's going on with their sergeants and their lieutenants. And to be honest, they really don't care. They don't give a rat's ass, because again, a lot of them have not had to do bottom low staff officer positions. They haven't had to do it in 20 plus years. They've been sitting in their offices behind the expensive exterior wood grain desk that probably costs more than the officers they pay and check. They got all these plaques on their walls: officer of the year, sheriff of the year. While their officers are stressed out, working all of these hours or overworked, having to do excessive overtime, they are chilling. They are chilling because they have arrived to a place in which they don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to deal with it. And the truth is, a lot of these sheriffs, they have nothing to do with the bottom. The only time they have anything to do with the bottom is if something drastic happens. God forbid if the inmate is dead in the cell. God forbid if an officer is smuggling drugs. That is the only time they get involved. Something major has to jump off. Then here comes the sheriff on the news saying how they discovered one of the officers was corrupt and how they had to terminate the officer, or they discovered an inmate, was dead in his cell after doing an investigation with internal affairs. That is the only time the top gets involved. Other than that, they don't give a rat's ass about what the officers got to go through. In fact, I remember the correctional facility where I worked, I was told before I started working there, they said that the sheriff comes around, is known to come around and just walk through the jail 3, 4 in the morning. Just sometimes he'll just come through the jail and walk around. And I thought that was kind of strange, because I'm like, that don't sound right. Okay, well, that's interesting to know that a sheriff would be that concerned about how his correctional facility is operated, that he will actually walk around just once in a while. Well, I will let you know, the whole time I was there, almost 3 years, I've never seen that sheriff come through there. Not one time. Not one time have I seen that sheriff pass those sliders, walk around, affiliate, or even speak with the officers, conversate with the officers to find out what's going on in the jail, what changes may need to be made in order for the officers to be able to work effectively. I've never seen his involvement. Never. Only time I seen his face was the day when I graduated and went in under oath and signed off to be a correctional officer. And we took a picture together. Other than that, I never seen him. And this just goes to show that this is why a lot, and not that the sheriff that was over my facility so far there was never he was never exploited for any scandals or any misconduct or anything like that. But what I am saying is it's so easy for these sheriffs and these jail administrators. It's so easy for them to get caught up in all type of scandals because they have so much power, and they got so many people underneath them that's willing to do the dirty work. As you can see, former Sheriff Alex Underwood, he got two other officers going down with him because they helped him cover up a lot of his dirty work. Because guess what? They were benefiting as well. And that is what happens when greed steps in. Greed will make you overlook your duty as an officer. It will make you compromise your integrity, especially when money is involved. So, you kind of put yourself between a rock and a hard place. So anyway, this sheriff is shutting down major operations because he knows these operations cost money. And I'm pretty sure as a sheriff, he was making really good money. I'm sure that he didn't have to worry about things that average folks in poverty that's living paycheck to paycheck have to worry about. I'm sure he didn't have to worry about his mortgage. I'm sure he didn't have to worry about his car notes, his water bill, his light bill. I'm sure none of that was ever a problem to him. I'm sure he was able to financially afford, taking care of his family and still being able to maintain a luxurious lifestyle. In other words, he had it made. But like the Bible said, those who love money should never be satisfied. They'll never be satisfied. They're always looking for more. They're always wanting more. And that's why there's a saying that money is the root of all evil. And it's not that money is the root of all evil. It's how you use that money that makes it the root of all evil. So basically, this guy became so greedy, even with all his money and all his power. He was even robbing his own officers. And I'm starting to feel like, a lot of these sheriffs in some form or another, I believe a lot of them, if they're not doing anything majorly corruptive like former Sheriff Alex Underwood, I believe all of them are robbing these correctional facilities to a big degree. I believe a lot of these officers are not, a lot of officers with the law enforcement, they're not getting paid what they truly deserve because a lot of these sheriffs and chiefs, a lot of these law enforcement officers that have high rank positions, the truth is a lot of them are cutting corners, which is causing a lot of causing the bottom man, those as officers, correctional officers, those that are corporals, sergeants, lieutenants, all of these officers that are actually operating the jail, actually working the jail, the ones that are maintaining order in the jail. This is the reason why a lot of these officers are being underpaid, because instead of getting paid what they deserve, what is happening is these higher ups are taking the funds, they're taking the taxpayer monies, and they're coming up with all kind of excuses from the government to be able to keep receiving funds, but at the same time, they're cheating and robbing those that are helping to orchestrate the jail, that are making the jail run. And it's sad, but it's the Indians. These are what I mean by the Indians, the jailers, the correctional officers, the corporals, the sergeants, and all of these people. That's what probably getting. I guarantee you, none of them probably ain't getting $30 an hour. In my opinion, the average correctional officer needs to at least start off getting paid $25 an hour. That should be starting pay. You have to look at it. These correctional officers, they're the ones, their life is at risk. It's not the chiefs. It's not the jail administrators. It's not the sheriffs, because they are in their office. They are going golfing on the weekends while having steak at Ruth Chris. They're going to the golf tournaments. They're cruising on their yachts. every summer. You know what I mean? They're not dealing with the everyday struggles that the correction officers, that the corporals, that lieutenants and the sergeants have to deal with. They're not dealing with it. And it's sad because this is a prime example, and I'm not saying this is the case for all sheriffs, but some of them are jinxing. They're ripping off a lot of their employees because they're basically running game with the government, saying, "Hey, I'm short of staff. I need more officers. But in order for me to hire more officers, I'm going to need more money. I'm going to need more funds to be able to hire more officers to run my jail effectively." And the government, if the government supplies these funds and they're not actually going into the jails, meaning not going by the paperwork that the sheriff and the higher ups are submitting them, not going by the amounts that they see on the paper, unless they actually go to the jail and see where that money is going. This is how these sheriffs are able to get off with doing corrupt things with the governmental funds. This is how they're able to get by. If they had somebody who was coming in regularly and not, asking them to just send their paperwork of what's being audited, but if they actually had somebody coming into jail, physically walking through the jail, seeing where the money is going, they're going to always be able to get over. They're going to always be able to use governmental funds for their own personal use, instead of it going towards the officers, instead of it going towards the jail. Same things. Even a lot of the inmates aren't getting the adequate things that they need. Also, they're stripping things off their commissary. They're making them pay for all kind of stuff now. The fees are going up on simple things. For a bag of chips, maybe $3, something that you could buy at the dollar store for like $1. So it's always those that are in high positions. They have more room. They have a bigger advantage to be corrupt, because they could take that money, and depending on who they got backing them up, they have people who can alter the income and make it look like that money is going places that is really not going. They can make it like that money is going towards programs that is really not going to. They can make it seem like that money is going towards officers' pay. And half of that stuff ain't even going to where it's supposed to go. Now keep in mind, we just had the government supply COVID fund, COVID money. A lot of officers of law enforcement, a lot of officers aren't getting their COVID pay. And those that had it, and those who were able to get their COVID pay, they had to do things that they should have not had to do to get it, because COVID pay is specifically for essential workers, meaning that is money that is entitled to those who protect and serve the community. Rather, if that's first responders, law enforcement officers, correctional officers. So how are you going to place stipulations and tell officers that they can only get their COVID money after a certain amount of time? Or they can only get COVID money if they take certain classes, or they do certain things. Why do officers with their law enforcement, why do they have to follow certain prerequisites in order to get their COVID money when that's coming from the government? There should not be any stipulations placed on that. And again, all of this is just so those in higher management, like I said, the sheriffs, they can use the funds to their advantage. That's exactly what former Sheriff Underwood did. He used it to his advantage. Sometimes greed sets in. You seeing all of this money coming in from the government. You seeing all of these thousands that they're giving you to start programs. They're giving you all extra amount of money to start distributing to your officers. That money starts looking good, and you start to think to yourself, shit, you really don't need this. This is money I could be using to build some more homes for me and my children, to pay for my children's college funds. I could go get some more cars with this. I can go fly first class in Bermuda and other countries around the world. Something about when money hits your hand, you get amnesia. You forget to look out for those who are helping your facility to run and operate as effectively and efficiently as it is working. And what tends to happen is, again, for example, just throwing some figures out there. Let's say, as a sheriff, you get 500,000 a month. Let's just say you get that off the muscle every month, and the government sends you, you know, 10 to, let's say the government sends you like 500,000, and that's supposed to be used for your programs. Instead of you being comfortable in using your own money like you've been doing, like you could afford to do, you'll look at that other 500,000 and be like, shoot, man, if I can use some of the money for these programs, I ain't got to touch my 500,000. See, this is how greed sets in. Even though 500,000 a month, that's awesome. Once a month for income. But when greed sets in, greed will make you think, oh shit, I ain't got to use my 500,000. I'll just take 100,000 here from there, here from this program. I'll just shorten my officers, even though I was told with this money I'm supposed to, distribute it to my officers so they can start getting paid 20 an hour versus 16 an hour. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll bump their pay up to like another $1.50. So that way they won't get $20 an hour, but they'll get like $18.50 an hour, and then I can take the rest of that money and do what I want to do with it. This is what tends to happen. This is how corruption sets in with corrections. This man was doing all kind of stuff with the government money, and it caught up with him. He was taking the money, and falsifying documentations, making it seem like people that was illegally arrested. He falsified the documents to make it like they was legally arrested, even though they was illegally arrested. He did a lot of corrupting stuff, and he kept doing it until it finally caught up with him. He got comfortable, he's up here collecting paychecks for work that wasn't performed, taking money from employees who actually did do work. His wife is already a judge, and him and his wife, this is what I'm saying, this straight greed. Now, a judges make good money. They make really good money. And just the fact, what I see here, the average salary for a judge could be around $160,000 a year. So him and his wife, they was not struggling financially at all. And yet he was still corrupt. As the Bible says, those who love money shall never have enough. It'll never be enough. When you greedy for a dollar, you money hungry, you're gonna always seek more. It don't matter if somebody give you 2 million, you're gonna want 3 million. Somebody give you 4 million, you're gonna want 5 million. Let me tell you, people who already have money, they are bigger thieves than those that are homeless who don't have no money. The biggest thieves are the ones that are already well off. When you think of a thief, you thinking of somebody that's homeless, drunk, straggly in the streets. The biggest thieves are the ones that live in these big mansions, driving these expensive, luxurious cars. They are the biggest thieves of all thieves. You get these sheriffs that are taking governmental funds. They shortening their employees. They shortening their department. The departments don't have up-to-date computer software. Don't have up-to-date equipment for officers to work effectively. They got them driving old squad cars, barely keeping maintenance on it. And instead of taking the extra money, taking the governmental funds that's being dispersed to them every year, every month, however often they get it, they would not hire extra officers. Instead, they'll just overwork the officers that are already within their department. You got a lot of correctional facilities. They will overwork their officers before they hire an additional staff. It's kind of like if you have a block of cheese and you just keep shaving and shaving and shaving and shaving that cheese till there's no cheese left. That's basically what causes corruption with a lot of these sheriffs or these individuals that are in high positions in the criminal justice system. They tend to take for granted the authority they have over the governmental funds that are contributed to them. They take advantage of the authority they have as far as saying where that money goes. They get to pick and choose where that money is going. They get to say, well, we're going to spend $100,000 towards a raise, making sure all officers now are, instead of getting $18 an hour, we're going to make sure they get $25 an hour. They have the power to do that. But what tends to happen is, no, they have to lose when they see the scales are tipping, when they're noticing too many officers are leaving or quitting, and it's outweighing the amount of inmates that have to be supervised. Now they want to try to bribe the officers that have not left so they can prevent them from leaving and saying, okay, we're going to give y'all a raise. We're going to go from giving y'all 18 an hour to 20. And for anybody that's already working excessively, that sounds like a good thing. Another $2.50. Any little bit means something. But at the same time, they still getting over. A lot of these sheriffs are getting away with giving out kibbles and bits. Because nobody really knows how much money is in the pot. If the majority of these officers knew how much money was coming into these jails and how much is really owed to them, most of them would be quitting. If most of these officers knew that they should be getting paid $30 an hour instead of 16, 18, 20, most of them will quit. But because so many other jobs out there that's paying far less, they willing to accept it. But now it's getting to the point now, hell, you got warehouses that are paying the same amount that correctional officers are getting. You got warehouses that's paying $20 an hour, paying $22 an hour. So it's to the point now, if these sheriffs or those who are in charge of the governmental funds that are being submitted to these correctional facilities, if they don't start using these funds correctly, what's going to happen is they're going to have a lot of officers that's going to start walking. And the sad part is The only way these officers are going to see their money, they have to do a lot of overtime. But in all honesty, if these officers were getting paid what they're supposed to get paid, they checks should look as if they are working overtime. And that's without the overtime. And that is how they bamboozle you. Most law enforcement agencies, they don't pay you well unless you are doing overtime. Your regular pay rate is nothing compared to your overtime. Like when I was doing corrections, my pay rate was what, $18.75, but the days I did overtime, it was $23, 23 to 25 an hour. That's how they get you. So the only way you really gonna make money, you got to burn out. You have to work excessive amount of hours. And that's kind of how they kind of play you a little bit. Yeah, you'll make good money, but you'll make more money on the days that you work mandated overtime. Meaning your days that you're supposed to have off, that is when you make your most money. Your regular days that you come in, that's when you get your regular pay. So it's pretty much like you're getting pimped to a certain degree. You know, all honesty, what you make on overtime, you should be making that on your regular day. Just the fact that you are in a very dangerous profession. You're dealing with inmates from all walks of life. Some are mentally ill. Most of them are very violent. Most of them have no respect for authority. They will physically attack officers. You know, in the fact that that type of profession alone, an officer should be getting started off with at least 25 an hour. But these higher ups, they're not going to do it because they have gotten greedy with their authority. They have gotten greedy with their salary. So therefore, they are not going to pay these officers what they deserve. They're not going to supply these correctional facilities with adequate equipment. The last facility I was at, those jails were older than, Harriet Tubman. Those desks been there every bit of 30, 40 something years. They won't even update the equipment for officers to work comfortably. It's like working in the slum. To the point you don't have a decent keyboard. Even some of the keyboards were raggedy. With a space bar wouldn't even work. You would be surprised how when you first go into these jail facilities, if you go in the admin office, the admin office looks like a Marriott hotel suite. The admin, where the chiefs, where the jail administrator, where the sheriff resides on a daily basis, looks like a pit suite, a pit house suite. But when you pass that slider and you have to go through the door where the inmates work at, everything is raggedy. The desk is raggedy. The chairs are raggedy. Sometimes some of the water lines, sometimes they hot water don't kick in unless the inmate been running the shower for like an hour or two. The first hour or two, it runs nothing but cold water. I know inmates are inmates, but at the same time, we're trained not to treat inmates inhumane, but yet y'all don't give these jails adequate equipment. Y'all not making sure things are functioning in the jail correctly and effectively, in which an inmate could take a decent hot shower. But we're told as officers to treat inmates with respect, to treat inmates as human beings. Don't treat inmates as animals. But at the same token, y'all got roof leaks going on in the jail. It just amazes me. And this could very well be the reason why you have a lot of sheriffs like this individual here, former sheriff, Alex Underwood, who's taking governmental money and is doing everything but what they're supposed to do with the governmental assistance. They're taking the money and using it for own personal gain, using it for luxury, instead of using it for things that are needed within the jail, or upping the pay rates for the officers so these officers don't become discouraged. They don't feel like they're working for pennies and quitting on them. They're not doing that. So, and this is a prime example as to why. You got corrupt sheriffs like Alex Underwood that's taking that money and they're not doing right with it. Now, I'm sure they're probably not going to pay the radio with him. They're going to make him do some years, and it's sad because his reputation is forever going to be tainted because of this. And there's so many of them that are doing it. The difference is you got some that are more smart. I believe a lot of them are corrupted if you ask me, but most of them have gotten smart. Most of them know how to cross their T's, dot their I's. They not up here being so extravagant to the point where standing out like a sore thumb. Us, we got to be flashy. We got to make it seem obvious that we not doing what we supposed to do. You know how we do. That's the difference between them and us. They know how to be low-key flashy. We got to be loud flashy. So it was only a matter of time by the time they was going to catch Mr. Underwood. And it all caught up with him. So you got to be very careful. And sometimes, these are, in many cases, these investigations, they go for years watching you. They don't just come at you because you did one or two things wrong. They let you do about 30, 40 things wrong. That way, when they're ready to nail you, they already got all the evidence they need. You can't buck, you can't lie, you can't go under them, you can't go around them. They got more than enough evidence to where they can hit you hard. So I'm pretty sure at this point, there's nothing he's going to be able to do to redeem himself. They watched him for a long time. They probably had a narc. They probably had somebody in the midst, being undercover, watching them, scoping them, That's the thing about it. Law enforcement work together, and they also work together when they come to get rid of their own. This I know. They will work together to get rid of their own. Now, they all will come together when it come to criminals and offenders and child molesters, but they will all come together on their own. And to me, I think they find it more exciting when they can bust their own compared to a criminal. I really believe they find it more exciting, like they really accomplished something when they can catch their own, doing something corrupt. So anyway, leave y'all comment below. Let me know what y'all think about the situation with former Sheriff Alex Underwood. What else do you think they're doing with these governmental funds? Do y'all think it's several sheriffs that do this as well? What do you think that most sheriffs do that protects them from getting exposed compared to what this one did that got him to be exposed? So anyway, leave y'all comment below. Let me know what y'all think. I definitely would like to get y'all opinion on this. And again, thank y'all for bearing with me even though I've been under the weather. This is your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha. Remember, I'm going to always pour you a cup of truth. I'm going to always break you off a slice of knowledge. Y'all be blessed. Take care.